Thank you. Hey, welcome back, everybody. We're live here on this Friday, May, or is it February? I think it's February. It still seems like February to me.
It's 2019.
I know, but look at the weather out there. What the hell is going on with this weather, Edward?
Well, I think what happened was everybody turned to the wrong month in the calendar.
I see.
They were supposed to go forward. They went backward, and it's March.
Hello?
Yeah, one moment, sir. I'm just putting it through.
Thank you. Oh, well, that's interesting.
We should probably go right to the news.
Well, you know, first let's look at what's going on. As soon as somebody answers the call on this, I'm on hold with Aeroplan here.
Yeah.
Which is not the usual thing for this kind of a show, but we're taking it up a notch.
Hold on, try this again.
Yeah.
All right. So,
okay.
Yeah, what's going on in the show today? Big stuff, big news. Ricky GroWorks will be here at 3:05 with the news. James and Ed will be here at 3:08 with the normal James and Ed tomfoolery. Actually, it should be James and Ed foolery, shouldn't it?
Yeah, the James and Ed, no Tom.
We're going to talk
Last time I checked, your name's not Tom.
We're going to talk about Canada's favorite corporate welfare case, Bombardier Inc.
Yeah.
And here's the news with Ricky GroWorks.
Here are the headlines moving markets today. James E Wagner Cultivation Corporation announced that its current operations are at a full production capacity for both the pilot facility, JWC1, and the first phase of the second site, JWC2. Currently, both JWC1 and Phase 1 of JWC2 are operating at full capacity, with each site having all of its flowering rooms in full production. The corporation anticipates that JWC2 will achieve its first harvest cycle during the first week of June 2019. Origin House obtained an interim order for their proposed arrangement with Cresco Labs Inc. Cresco Labs will acquire all the issued and outstanding shares of Origin House. Each holder of a common share of Origin House will receive 0.8428 of a subordinate voting share of Cresco Labs, and each holder of a Class A compressed share of Origin House ultimately receiving 84.28 subordinate voting shares of Cresco Labs. Gabriella's Kitchen Inc. announced a $10 million private placement offering of units. Each unit will consist of one common share and one half common share purchase warrant. Each full warrant will be exercisable to acquire one common share for a period of 2 years, following the closing date at an exercise price of 38 cents Canadian per share. The net proceeds from the offering will be used for potential acquisitions and brand and sales investment. Valens GroWorks Corp is accelerating the expiry date of all outstanding common share purchase warrants of the company issued pursuant to the warrant indenture dated on October 10, 2018 between the company and the Computer Share Trust Company of Canada. The proceeds from the exercise of the warrants will be primarily used by the company to continue to execute on its growth strategy, as well as general corporate and working capital purposes. AgriFlora Organics International Inc. has sold its rights to AgriLeaf SA in Greece in exchange for common shares of Rough Rider Capital Corp, valued at 150% of AgriFlora's original investment in the Greek venture. AgriFlora anticipates it will own approximately 8% of the common shares of Rough Rider after the closing of the transaction. AgriFlora intends to enter into a supply agreement with Rough Rider's Greek pharmaceutical partner to purchase cannabis flower and oils for its pharmaceutical products. The Green Organic Dutchman Holdings Limited has signed a settlement offer with Hamilton City Council. The facilities in Ancaster, Ontario will be capable of growing 17,500 kilograms of premium certified organic cannabis annually. 48 North Cannabis Corp announced it has accelerated the expiry of certain common share purchase warrants. As a result, the gross proceeds to the company total $13.6 million. 99.3% of the warrants available for exercise were exercised. The company intends to use the gross proceeds to fund inventory and operational expenses related to the execution of its proposed 100-acre outdoor cannabis facility and the development of next-generation cannabis products expected to be available for retail sale in fall 2019. And that's your news for today.
Big news, really big news there, Ed. Do you know why the water in the southern hemisphere twists the other way down the toilet?
Coriolis effect, or whatever it's called.
The what?
Effect.
Wait a sec. Can I repeat that?
Isn't there something called the Coriolis effect?
You know what differentiates a hurricane from a tornado?
Which way? No, hurricane from not a tornado, cyclone.
Oh, well, I was asking about a tornado.
Oh yeah, well, I know.
What? You don't know?
Size of the eye.
Size of the eye. So, which one has the bigger eye?
Hurricane.
Oh yeah?
Big, much bigger.
Much bigger eye?
Much
Can it
bigger
see
eye.
more because it has a bigger eye?
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Tom
What else?
Flury,
What else?
left, right, and
Hey,
center.
did you see the mothership twirling cloud over Texas this week? Did you see it?
No.
You guys should put it on a show right now.
Let's
It's really
see the
important.
mothership.
The mothership.
Mothership.
It's a monster cloud,
The big mother?
and it was rotating, and it looked like a big spaceship,
Really?
but it was a cloud ship.
Cloud ship. Sort of like friendship.
Like a worship.
Ephemeral. Temporary in nature.
Everything is.
Not everything. The
Well-
universe has kind of been here for a while. It looks like it's going to keep going.
Yeah, but it's not.
What if we are essentially exactly the same age as the universe because we are merely a part of it?
We are.
So that means we never live and we never die.
We really don't die.
No, we don't. Anyways, yeah. How about Bombardier is in deep shit again? You
Why?
know that? Well, because you know how they have that special voting
Bombardier
structure.
or
Yeah,
is this
Bombardier.
SNC?
Bombardier. This
Oh.
is the other corporate welfare case. Actually, it was funny. I was in Montreal yesterday, and I walked by the offices of SNC Lavalin, and I thought, geez, all we need to do is put Bombardier right here, and we could call it Corruption Row. And it can be Canada's corrupt corporations. Anyway, so no, Bombardier
They should
has
move
that.
them down to Ottawa.
Well, Ottawa's just across the river. They don't have to move. And I think that might be part of the reason why, so the family that was the founder of Bombardier, they control 50.1% of the voting shares, of the votes, through 10 voting shares per share that they have, which is only 12.2% of the equity in total. How is that fair? And this is a company that takes regular largesse from the government in the
I
form
thought
of
you were going
welfare.
to say it takes regular gasoline.
Takes
You said
regular
it takes
gasoline.
regular, not high test?
Anyways, but now the Canada Pension Plan, who is one of the top investors in Bombardier, has thrown their weight behind the coalition of investors in a group called MEDAL to have the special voting class deconstructed and removed.
Yeah.
Wound down.
Do you own a lot of stock in this?
Bombardier?
Yeah.
What kind of fool would buy stock in Bombardier? Have you seen a chart on this thing? This is the guys. They still owe the city of Toronto 80 bloody streetcars that they haven't delivered on, and they're announcing this, that, and the other thing. Now they announced yesterday that they're selling their Irish project, putting who knows how many people out of work in Belfast.
Yeah.
It's like all this while the special voting group votes for special dividends for shareholders.
Special dividends.
Special. Kind of like special head.
Special. Well, there's special ed.
Yes.
That's one concept. That's one.
Yeah.
But then there's special head.
Special head. And what does that involve?
Oh boy, oh boy. Oh, yeah, I gotta tell you.
Is that
First
that
of all,
PG?
if you're French, it comes special head.
Ed,
Right?
special ed. Well, then it sounds the same.
And then there's,
All right, we had a quick chat with Chemistree this week with their new head grower, Chief Cannabis Officer. I like that one, CCO. Sheldon Aberman. And here's that
Chemistree
little...
Technology Inc. is an investment company dedicated to the U.S. and international cannabis sector, providing turnkey solutions for the regulated cannabis industry. The company is committed to acquiring and developing vertically integrated cannabis assets to own and operate licensed cultivation, processing, distribution, and retail facilities. Chemistree currently owns assets in Washington State, prospective cannabis cultivation lands in California, a first investment in the Canadian cannabis sector through Pasha Brands, and they have a robust pipeline of assets to grow its base of business. As of April 2019, the company's management ownership sits at 35%. Chemistree Technology Inc. is listed on the Canadian Stock Exchange under the symbol CHM.
I'm joined now by Sheldon Aberman. He is the Chief Cannabis Officer of Chemistree Technology, trading on the CSE under the symbol CHM. Sheldon, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Sheldon, how did you become the Chief Cannabis Officer of Chemistree Technology? What does that entail exactly?
Well, 17 years in the hydroponic and marijuana industry, manufacturing products, high-end electronics, owning dispensaries, cultivations, and of course, through that entire design process, helping consult and build some of the largest grows in the U.S. About 5 years ago, we formed Cannabis Consulting, took on some of the larger LPs in Canada, Greece, New Zealand, and have continued to expand the consulting arm of my other businesses. Came together with a group of friends over the years, formed Chemistree, and will be doing the same exact thing for Chemistree that I've been doing for Cannabis Consulting going forward.
So you're currently growing in Desert Springs, Desert Hot Springs, California, and also in Washington. What is the size of your production profile and footprint at this point?
So we're up and running in Washington. We operate a brand up there called Sugar Leaf. We're running about 300 lights in flower, pulling down some of the finest quality product the Washington market's seen. In Desert Hot Springs, we're currently in design and construction phase of our 128,000 square foot greenhouse complex and a 40,000 square foot manufacturing and distribution facility.
And you've also announced plans that you're spreading into New Jersey and elsewhere?
That is correct. We have signed some agreements in New Jersey to pursue an application for a vertically integrated manufacturer, processor, and retailer in the New Jersey market under their new regulation, and you'll see continued expansion along the eastern seaboard this year.
Okay, so you've got all these U.S. states teed up. Are you going outside of the United States at all in the future?
I would love to give you that answer, but obviously as a director, you know I can't. We're perpetually looking at deals internationally, and I think you'll be surprised to see what's coming down the pipeline.
Sure. The deal that Canopy Growth did where they took over acreage holdings, do you think that makes Chemistree a takeout target for larger companies as a result of that?
I'm not sure if that makes Chemistree a takeout company, although I think some of the board members here have that rainbow at the pot of gold they're looking for. The acreage canopy deal is quite interesting. It's predicated on federal regulation, federal legalization taking place in the U.S. We're not looking that far down the road. Currently, we're looking at the next 18 to 36 months to increase the size of our organization, get as much cultivation under our belt as we can, and continue our own internal acquisitions and maybe become the next canopy acquiring an acreage.
Okay. Sheldon, tell me about Sugar Leaf, how you came up with, how that brand evolved, what is popular about it, where can I buy it?
Well, Sugar Leaf's a brand we took over in the Washington market. It was already a premium brand with a great following. We've stepped in, revitalized the grow, and brought it up to the next level. It's one of the top quality products you can buy in the Washington market, and it's available at retailers all over.
So will Sugar Leaf be ultimately extracted product like vapes and concentrates, as well as perhaps some consumer packaged goods like edibles and beverages at some point, or are you going to focus primarily on being a premium dried flower brand?
So we're actually in the process now of expanding the Sugar Leaf brand in the Washington market to be extracts, vape pens, and bottled beverages. We're also simultaneously expanding the Sugar Leaf brand into the California market through a series of extracts, beverages, and soon to be premium flower when our Desert Hot Springs facility come online.
Mm-hmm. Does Chemistree have exposure in the medical cannabis market or just the recreational market in California and Washington?
Our focus is primarily just the recreational market. We don't differentiate between medical and recreational internally, but our focus in California is recreational.
Sure. Well, medical, recreational, it's all therapeutic, right?
That's what it's about.
Do consumers of Sugar Leaf products typically value high THC, low CBD flower, or do you have like a healthy component of people who actually like to smoke CBD?
We don't focus on CBD. Our products are super high in THC, and some of them are high in CBD. Our consumers are looking for high-end flower, a quality high, and a great recreational experience.
Wow. Okay, so now let's talk a bit about the California market. My understanding is that the California market is oversupplied by a factor of 2, and that's largely because there's so many suppliers of black market, unlicensed product. Do you see that as a challenge to achieve market share with your Sugar Leaf brand in California?
I think it's really relative to the way that you look at the California market. The argument can be made that it's oversupplied or undersupplied. There's still a huge black market, still a huge gray market. But what you're seeing is a new demographic of consumer coming into the spotlight. And those are the people that are out at the dispensaries acquiring product. And if you go out to the dispensaries in California, you'll realize there's a vast shortage of quality brands and product in the market. So with Sugar Leaf entering the California market, we see nothing but horizons bountiful for us and a consumer market that'll be happy to consume the products that we put out.
Do the consumers in California, do they have a preference? Would you say that most of the consumers prefer to buy from legal sources, or do you think that a lot of them are still happy buying from unlicensed sources?
I think there's a big shift taking place where people understand they want to buy from licensed sources. They want to know the quality of the product that they're consuming. They want to know that it was cultivated ethically. There's no pesticides, harmful chemicals. But don't forget, you also have this new demographic of recreational user coming in that doesn't know the black market and doesn't know the gray market. They only know the recreational shops that are available to them, and they're confident that they're getting healthy, quality, chemical-free marijuana.
And let me ask you, Sheldon, what in 2019 is the big milestone for investors in chemistry?
What you're going to see in 2019 is chemistry real breakout year. We're expanding throughout the California market, the Midwest, and the Eastern Seaboard. All of our cultivations and acquisitions will start to take shape, close, and come online.
So let me ask you, Sheldon, do you see a opportunity in expanding to more states than the Eastern Seaboard and the Western states? Like, is Texas on the menu at all? Does Florida come to mind?
I'm not a fan of humidity and I don't wear cowboy boots, but I'll tell you what, chemistry is going to look at every state, every country, and whatever expansion possibilities come forward, we'll make sure it makes the best sense for our investors and weigh that in prior to moving forward.
All right, Sheldon, thanks for joining me today. We'll come back to you soon. Best of luck.
Appreciate you. You guys have a good day.
You too. Let's talk about Aurora. Recently, your financials, you've more or less delivered on.
Here are the headlines moving markets today.
If you're lucky to buy it 3 days ago at 37 cents,
and I think it has a lot to do with some of these smaller names giving really...
Recreational cannabis is here. It's quite dry. So I'm going to eliminate the stocky bits. You going dancing tonight, Ed? No? Why not?
I'm getting up tomorrow morning.
Yeah?
I'm heading up north with my doctor.
You're taking your doctor up north?
Well, he's taking me.
Why? You going for surgery up there?
I need to get some documents changed, so I need him doctored.
Oh, you're doctoring some documents. I see. In the north. This is interesting. And why are you doctoring documents? Is this for your other life as a spy?
Are your papers in order?
We have ways of making you talk. You know, it's a...
Are we on right now?
Yeah, we are.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we're having a show
All right.
now. Just thought I'd spring that on you. Which is your favorite cannabis company right now? Which company, no, let me rephrase that. Which company do you think, and I'm going to say that as I put this candy in my mouth just so it's a little bit harder for you to tell what I'm saying. Which company do you think, whoa, those are sour, woo! Oh, man.
I wonder what...
I forgot what I was going to say now.
Where does the expression sourpuss come from?
Those candies, I think. Which is your favorite company that's making a move right now?
I want to put up this chart. It's up there right now. It's called This thing looks interesting to me because the market cap's so low and it's breaking out of a pattern. The volume's starting to pick up very subtly. And I know from talking to management that people are very interested in the beverage space as it relates to cannabis.
Yes.
They have non-alcoholic beer. They're doing business in Canada right now, right?
Yeah.
$2.5 million bucks.
Nope.
Not a lot.
Nope.
Something.
You
can't do $1. You can't do any dollars. But if you can do $1, maybe you can do $2. If you can do $2, maybe you can do $4.
Is this accounting logic? Is this like IFRS?
I got a lot of
stock prediction here.
Here we go. Here we go.
So
Bet
they
you can't
make
eat wine.
beverages, and they make non-dealcoholized beverages that are on the shelves in stores across Canada.
Sobeys, Shoppers, Loblaws, to name a few.
Okay, so are we supposed to be looking at this in the context of a cannabis play?
Yes.
Well, where are they going to get their cannabis?
They did a deal with Lexaria.
Lexaria?
Yeah. A while back. I think it was Lexaria. I don't know. I don't look. I'm not even talking about all the fundamental bullshit.
You're not even paying attention.
Who cares?
You don't
I'm
even know
looking
what's
at the
going
chart.
on.
I'm telling you that something's going on with the company. What's going on?
No idea. Why do you think something's going on? Pull up that chart again. What? Just because there's a little bump and grind in the action?
Okay. I tried it here. Nothing happened, right? Big volume. Nothing happened.
Nobody can see what you're pointing at.
Oh, where's my pen? Nobody can see what you're pointing at because you're... Gotta laugh. Okay.
All right.
There's a little bit of a base building operation going on there.
Okay.
There's resistance right across here.
Yeah.
Today it went down to 19.5 cents,
Yeah.
and now it's 21.5 cents.
No.
That's not the point. This is getting set up, in my estimation. Somebody's looking at this and saying, with other companies that are trading at 70 million market cap, similar, here's a 20 million market cap.
Got to go to 70.
Especially if certain people get interested.
Some people might be pissed off that we're drawing attention to this right now if they're trying to quietly build a position.
Well, or they might say, whoever those guys are, they're so fucking smart, we got to get those guys working for us.
But we don't work for anybody.
Well, that's true. I don't know. I'm just talking, shooting shit here. I think this thing's getting ready for a move.
All right, here's Alvaro Torres from Khiron Life Sciences.
Khiron Life Sciences Corp is a Latin American-based pharmaceutical company that develops and commercializes medical cannabis products. Khiron has core operations in Colombia and is fully licensed in the country for the cultivation, production, domestic distribution, and international export of both THC and CBD medical cannabis. In May 2018, Khiron listed on the TSX Venture, becoming one of the first Colombian-based medical cannabis companies to trade on any exchange globally. Khiron Life Sciences Corp is listed on the TSX Venture under the ticker symbol KHRN.
I'm joined now by Alvaro Torres, CEO of Khiron Life Sciences, trading on the TSX Venture under the symbol KHRN. Alvaro, welcome back.
Nice to be here, Jim. Thank you so
Alvaro,
much.
Khiron has now become officially the first, not the first, but one of the top multi-continent operators.
Yes.
And you've got just this incredible, exciting development going on in cosmetics, in medicine, in Mexico, in Colombia. Let's start off with a quick chat about that last press release you put out, wherein you're now going to be distributed to 900 pharmacies throughout Colombia. That strikes me as quite a serious development for the company.
I think it's extremely serious because we've always talked about Colombia as being our beachhead, and then how do we expand to Latin America? And now that we want to be multi-continental, how do we follow that path? But it's always important to execute, right? So it's not just about how much you can grow,
Sure.
but also how you're executing your home country.
Sure.
I think the distribution deal that we just signed is shows a lot of interest from the market and from the traditional retailers that medical cannabis is coming. How do we start getting into the hands of patients? So we always talk about execution, cultivation, extraction, but for me, also the most important part of it is how you get in the patient's hands. So we've always been talking about in the last year how while we are moving in other countries, let's make sure that in Colombia we can keep that dominant position that we have.
Right.
And with that, then we're gonna just be copying that to the rest of the countries.
Sure.
And it also sends a message that the company is ready to start production, delivery, sales.
Yeah.
That's the part of the entire thing. that we're
Right.
doing.
So for the 900 stores in Colombia, that's exposure to 5 million people, as was disclosed in the press release.
Yes.
Is it a case where they're all able to just buy cannabinoids over the counter, or is it by prescription at this point?
It's going to be both, Jim. So
Okay.
one of the reasons why we did this is because to buy THC products, which is a controlled substance, we need to be dispensing it through the appropriate allowed dispensary pharmacies. So this company has in the 900 chains, stores, they have a lot of them that are already have the ability to sell controlled substances.
Okay,
So
cool.
what it does for us is to have the patient not just have to go to the clinic that where he or she is getting the prescription, but being able to go to his or her nearest pharmacy to pick it up over the counter and also under the prescription. So the idea here is how do we mass market medical cannabis,
Right.
and make sure that we can have a better service with the patients so that they can go and pick it up or getting distributed to their house as quickly as possible.
Right.
So it's going to be both, but that retail presence allows us just to start thinking about how do we access more those 5 million patients.
Perfect. You also put out your financials, which, in keeping with the whole industry, there's nothing spectacular yet in terms of revenue as you build your market. When will we expect to see serious revenue happen for Khiron?
Well, I think 2018 is a pre-revenue year.
Okay.
But even with that, we went public in May 24th. It's been only 11 months since we started going public.
Right.
We bought a clinic, we started selling cosmetic products, and the results are just starting to show you that we're starting to get that retail presence built. I think for me particularly, only a year into all operations, to be able to start showing revenues has to show our investors that we are building the right platforms.
Right.
And platforms take some time to build because you're talking about shelf space, you're talking about medical education, having those patients to really understand it. 2019, you will see us having revenues in every single one of the countries that we are executing on. And then all of that is built for 2020, which in line to what we've spoken to analysts and shareholders, is really the year where all these jurisdictions are starting to really roll out. But the fact that we already have sales in our country with executing on what we told the market that we're going to execute, that shows that we have a clear path of understanding revenues are important, execution is important. And as more countries start to get aligned behind this, then we're going to start seeing those in 2020. But 2018 for sure, we're talking about Mexico, Chile, Brazil, Uruguay. We'll start to see revenues coming in all those jurisdictions, Italy now.
Right.
And I think that's exciting. You're building a platform.
Sure. So you've got all these different products coming in, over-the-counter medicines, prescription medicines, and then the cosmetics side is a completely different thing. You've got Dixie Brands partnership, so you've got brands everywhere.
Yes.
How important is the brand strategy to Khiron?
I think that's the most important part of our strategy. The rest is supply chain logistics, right? So cultivation, production, quality is important. But the sustainable part of this business is always going to be on the brands. If you don't have a connection with the consumer, whether it's a patient, it's a user, it's a consumer for his pet or for supplements, if you don't have that connection, then you're talking about very short term. But I think cannabis is here to stay in the long term. That's why we spend so much time building Quida, because Quida is now a brand that women appreciate, and that's going to allow us to have more SKUs and more relationship with the retailers and with the consumers. If you're just worried about the production part of it, which I guess if you work from Latin America, that's for me the commodity type of play. Then you're going to be competing against anybody that can produce and cultivate CBD.
Right.
But when you talk about brands, then you have the ability to rule and make decisions on your supply chain
Right.
that are going to be better for the price. So for us, it's always been like that. I told you before when we first met, I don't want to build a company that sells coffee at 90 cents a pound.
Right.
I want to be the company that sells the cup of coffee at $5 a cup.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do. And the rest of it is just the supply chain, which is going to be efficient and logical. Some of that will be done by ourselves in our facility. Some of that will be outsourced. I think it just creates an economy for everybody in Latin America or where we're growing that allows to have better options.
Right.
But the branding side of it, which is also why we did Italy. Italy is not just cultivation in Padua, it's because they have retail presence and they're selling product. And that channel is very important to us because then we can start pushing the rest of our products in the pipeline. Now that we did the Dixie as well. Dixie comes with a very strong brand. It comes with formulations. That gains 10 months of research that we don't have to do ourselves. The production part of it is the easiest part.
Sure.
The most difficult part is to get the consumer to really believe in the brand and be loyal to it. And so that's where we spend most of our capital.
Yeah, so with your exposure to Italy now, that's more or less your gateway into all of Europe. And with the sort of incremental easing of rules governing CBD products, does this mean that Cuida will be available throughout Europe as the regulations sort of keep up?
Well, yes, Jimmy. We were just invited to Cosmeprof, which is the biggest trade show for cosmetics, and that was in Bologna in Italy. And the amount of interest that we are being receiving on how do you get a product like Cuida with that quality into the shelves is very interesting. Now, of course, we have to go through all the regulatory issues because, as you know, the rules are easing up. But right now, we have the ability to start making conversations that nobody else is able to have on cosmetics. And of course, now what that means for us is just the ability to export, supply chain, what do you manufacture. But that brand, what we've been able to do in Colombia, is now very easily translatable in Europe. And Italy, for us, is the beachhead of how do we get into Europe. That just basically very much like the way the Allies did in World War II. Start by Italy and then you start with the rest of Europe.
That's right. Different companies have different strengths and different weaknesses. Khiron seems to be developing a very lateral approach across these three different main sectors. So there's the medical, the cosmetics, and the consumer packaged goods on the branded side, a la Dixie Brands. So I mean, I'm just wondering how soon until I'm drinking a soda that's made with Khiron's cannabis product in any of New York or London or Bogota?
That's a very good question, Jim. That's all we strive for.
Right.
And we try to do these partnerships so that we can get faster to market. To develop our own type of drinks for ourselves would have been very difficult. That's why we partnered with Dixie. Now we're just looking at the regulatory side to it, right?
Okay.
If you're talking about Latin America, that can come sooner than later than the United States. Of course, we know the regulations. But we had this question about, remember a year ago we were talking about how soon can I get a cosmetic product done by Khiron?
Right.
And it only took us 6 months after that question.
Right.
So I think it's going to be sooner than everybody expects.
Sure.
Because we're very good at regulatory understanding.
Yes.
Europe is the next market that's coming online as well, federally legal and with CBD. And, the United States is easing the rules. And the way I look at the world is that there's no global brand that's dominating the market in cannabis. Why can't it be Khiron's?
Yeah,
because in the end, the biggest beer company in the world is Brazilian.
Right.
And so why can't cannabis be from Latin America either?
That's Colombian gold.
Well, and coffee.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Alvaro, that's a great update. We'll leave it there for now. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate your time.
If you're enjoying the show, subscribe to Midas Letter on YouTube so you stay up to date on everything investment.
Dixie Brands Inc. designs, manufactures, and distributes cannabis-infused products. It makes hemp oil-derived human and animal dietary supplements for use in relaxation, pain relief, immunity development, and wellness under the Cresco Wellness and Therapist names in the United States, Canada, Mexico, Australia, and New Zealand. The company also owns the intellectual property, product branding, formulations, proprietary ingredients, and preparation methods related to a variety of cannabis-infused products, and designs and distributes packaging, ingredients, and non-cannabis consumer goods. Dixie Brands Inc. was founded in 2010 and is headquartered in Denver, Colorado. Dixie Brands trades under DIXI.U on the CSE.
Chuck Smith joins me now. He's the CEO of Dixie Brands Inc., trading on the CSE under the symbol DIXI. DIXI.U. Chuck, welcome back.
Hey, I'm happy to be here, James. Thank you very much.
You bet. Chuck, let's start with an overview of your financial results announced for year-end December 31st. Give me the highlights.
Yeah, the highlights are that the company increased revenue year over year by 73%. And in the quarter over quarter, we more than doubled revenue. So, I'm very proud of that. Our margins went up too, which is an indication that we continue to become more efficient in our manufacturing processes and building these SOPs to be repeatable and really drive costs out and consistency and quality of production up. So that really sets a great platform for us moving forward as we expand in the marketplace.
Sure. Okay, so the business of building a big branded company in a new industry is obviously very expensive. And so, every company in the space is essentially, losing money to build market share at this point. Dixie Brands is no exception. At what point in your evolution does that scenario become a story about profit and positive cash flow?
Sure. So I think a couple things, James. Number one, in the financials, as you looked at it, we had a very significant loss, but most of that loss was non-cash loss, and a lot of it, in fact, the majority of it, really had to do with, number one, taking the company public, the cost of the acquisition of the RTO, which again was a non-cash transaction, the conversion rates of converting debt into equity that was part of our Series C raise, which all of those things, even though they're non-cash, they do contribute to a loss. They clearly put the company in a really solid position going forward from financial reporting. In essence, we use this process to clean those things up and get the company in a really solid position. From an operational perspective, you're correct. It costs a lot of money to build infrastructure, build team, and get these products into market, into distribution. I'm highly confident that shareholders are going to see the company move toward profitability later on this year, and more importantly, see us build a foundation for consistent and repeatable results.
Right, fantastic. And so in your international strategy, tell me about how is your evolution going with Khiron Life Sciences?
Again, something really exciting and something, frankly, another thing that I'm proud of with the company, because you can look at the numbers and say, geez, the numbers weren't that big, Chuck, and what are you guys really doing? I want your shareholders or the viewers and our shareholders to realize, the company just raised money and closed that fundraising at the end of October, took the company public at the end of November. So really, there wasn't a whole lot of material change that was going to happen to the company in 2018. And frankly, the first quarter of 19 is really the beginning of deploying that capital. But what I can tell you is we've made some really transformative moves in the first quarter. The Khiron JV is probably the biggest. It gives Dixie complete access to the Latin American marketplace plus Mexico in a partnership of two like-minded companies that have great synergy together, and really is going to give us a first-mover advantage. The other opportunity is really bringing their award-winning cosmeceutical line, Quita, to the U.S. market, which is what our teams are working on aggressively right now.
Okay, cool. Do you see that the consumer demand for beverages and consumer packaged goods, edibles, like that kind of stuff, do you see that becoming more mainstream as people try this stuff for the first time? Or do you think that the audience is going to be more or less derived from the existing coterie of the population that consumes cannabis now?
No, and I think the data is absolutely showing us that more consumers are coming into the industry, more traditional non-cannabis consumers are coming into the industry, and they're looking for alternatives to either their current wellness platform, which may be, either other supplements or pharmaceutical drugs, or they're looking as an alternative to their social experiences with alcohol. So we're absolutely seeing great adoption by the consumers. coming into dispensaries. Fastest growing segment, 55 years and older. Those people are not coming in to buy dry flower to smoke or probably even concentrates. They're looking for properly dosed, consistent, and high quality ingestible products or topical products.
You bet. Do you think Europe's going to be a big market for consumer packaged goods?
I do, and I think we're already seeing that with the adoption of CBD-based or hemp-derived CBD-based products over in Europe, and as they start to roll out. But again, it's not any different than Latin America. I was just down at the Can of Mexico conference a week ago, met with all the country managers of Khiron. I can tell you they're extremely excited on a country-by-country basis of bringing our formulated products to those countries, but it's going to be a slow process because these countries are putting in their regulatory infrastructure, really deciding how they're going to distribute these products. And the good news is there isn't a product, in my opinion, other than a combustible product like flour that Dixie doesn't already make and hasn't already formulated, packaged, and understood how to distribute. So that really gives us a leg up, whether it's Latin America, Canada, eventually toward the end of the year, and certainly Europe.
CBDs are sort of taking out, or taking off rather, and a big sort of lead on over THC products in that CBD is really kind of useful on a daily basis for everything from pets, ailments to human sleeplessness. It's easy to get. It's not prescribed per se. Do you think that there's a chance that THC will catch up to CBD, or do you think there will always be this disconnect between CBD products, which seem to have a universal appeal, as opposed to THC products that seem to be limited to people who want to sort of explore the psychotropic possibilities?
Well, I think you can just correlate that to alcohol. Not everybody in the world drinks alcohol either, but quite a lot of people look after their own personal wellness, and certainly people generally spend more money on their pets than they do themselves in terms of health and wellness. So we really see the CBD category as exciting for a broader base of consumer. But again, we do see THC infused products as really starting to gain a foothold in mainstream consumer adoption, again, as an alternative potentially to consuming alcohol.
Yeah. Chuck, you've got such a wide variety of products on your website. Elixirs, chocolates, dewdrops, gummies, mints and tarts, bursts, topicals, tablets. What is the most popular product that you sell?
James, the company started, the flagship product was drinks, and so we have a deep, rich heritage in that. We understand how to deliver that liquid-based product, so it's consistent, it's homogeneous, it has great taste profiles, and it's safe and reliable. So that's obviously a cornerstone of our portfolio. But we also have really spent a lot of time bringing products to the market that are going to be, again, as you've called it, even more mainstream. So, confection products like gummies, that's the largest selling category, both in our portfolio as well as in the industry. We also have a lot of expertise in low dose products. So you'll see a lot of products from us that are 5 milligrams or less, because we know that consumers want to have, especially new consumers in the industry, they're not really looking for everything about the full psychotropic approach. They're looking for things that are maybe even more consistent with what they're used to, like a glass of Chardonnay. So maybe they take one of our mints, and that gives them kind of the same feeling and the same duration. So they become very comfortable with that format. So I think those are very popular products in the portfolio. And then finally, our topical products, that is consistently month over month a great revenue generator for the company, and that has no psychotropic effect. They use it for pure wellness to help with minor aches and pains, skin irritation, and things like that. So we do have a broad portfolio because we have a broad consumer need that we're catering to.
Fantastic. Okay, well, that's great, Chuck. That's a great update. Clearly, you guys are knocking it out of the park, and it's a pleasure to see that. Thanks very much for joining me today. We'll come back to you soon.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you, James.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Make sure you never miss a show by subscribing to our YouTube channel and clicking on the little notifications bell. If you're interested in getting monthly actionable investment ideas in the cannabis space to your inbox, subscribe to the newsletter at MidasLetter.com. Uh-oh. You ate all the candies in here, Ed.
Are you serious?
Yeah, Ed ate like a whole bag of sour candies.
No, I did not. I
You
did
did?
not.
We've eaten this whole bag while we've been sitting here.
I would have more. There'd be more evidence here.
Look, there's one little tit left in there. You sure you don't want that?
No, I don't. I don't take the last
Really?
one.
I have a DMT pen coming to me from some Cosmic Cowboys.
Cosmic Cowboys.
Cosmic Cowboys. DMT's not exactly legal, but I'm going to try this DMT vape pen. And apparently, according to the representation, 1 hit and you can still go out in the backyard and talk to the birds. 2 hits, you might want to sit down. 3 hits, you've left the planet. Have you ever tried DMT, dimethyltryptamine?
No.
Well, we're going to try it on this show, Ed. You and I.
It's not cannabis.
No, but it's drugs.
It's not legal.
Well, that's what makes it even more fun.
Oh.
And we can't actually give any notice of when we're going to try DMT on the show.
Because the authorities will be here.
The authorities might be here.
Just shut us down.
They'll be very mean to us and put us in jail. I know.
Okay.
So I'm thinking of starting a public company that is doing medicinal research on things like DMT, magic mushrooms, San Pedro, mescaline, ayahuasca. What else?
Yeah.
What other? Datura. Have you ever done a datura? Amanita muscaria. Have you ever done Amanita muscaria? Now, all the mushrooms that people do are psilocybins, generally. Psilocybin cubensis, psilocybin cyanescens. Cyanescens basically have 10 times as much psilocybin, which is the active ingredient, than psilocybin cubensis, which is far more common. Most of the magic mushrooms you get are psilocybin cubensis, which are your basic cow pie mushroom from the American Midwest. Psilocybin cyanescens grow around and under the roots of coniferous trees on the west coast of Canada. They have 10 times as much psilocybin in them. Let me tell you, have you ever eaten 10 grams of psilocybin at once?
No, I haven't even heard of psilocybin.
You haven't? Oh.
Mushrooms?
I'm talking to the wrong guy then. I thought we had a magic mushroom guy in here. Jesus Christ.
Jesus. No, just Jesus.
So I'm going to make you...
I'm on a first name basis with the guy, okay?
Jesus?
Just Jesus.
Jesus Cristo, my partner's
and they know
brother's
when I
name
say,
is
hey,
Jesus.
Jesus, and there's people all walking one way, he turns around and says, what do you want, Ed?
I don't think he says that.
Yes, he does.
I thought he's Italian. He says, che chiede? Che chiede? Stronzo, che chiedi?
Jesus.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the extent of my Italian. So
Okay.
I was in Montreal yesterday. Do you know what language they speak in Montreal?
Quebecois.
Spanish. Did you know that? I walked by this place, driving down the highway, and it says, Muebles Vender.
Muebles?
Muebles. That means furniture for sale. On the highway in Quebec. I'm like, do the French people know this is going on right here? They're advertising in French, no English, or advertising in Spanish rather, no English, no French version. If an Anglophone did that in Quebec, he would be put to the guillotine instantly. Don't you think, Edward? Would you like some Grey Poupon, Edward?
I didn't know you're a ventriloquist or whatever you're.
Ventriloquist? That's a guy who's got a puppet.
Yeah.
And he puts his hand behind the puppet's back and he throws his voice.
Throws his voice.
It's like, hey, I didn't say anything. That's a funny move, puppet. Fuck you, you fucking idiot. See, I just did it. That's what, you need a camera to do that. AAA Medic is a new medical and recreation cannabis company. I spoke to their CEO.
AAA Medic Montreal Inc. is a Montreal-based privately held medical and recreational cultivation and processing cannabis company. It also manufactures cannabis oil and provides product testing and development services. AAA Medic has a 10,000 square foot facility located in Laval, Quebec, and intends to build a second facility in the second half of 2019.
I'm joined now by Scott Jardine. He is the CEO of AAA Medic Montreal Inc. Scott, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Scott, let's start with the overview. What does AAA Medic do?
Really, we are a Montreal-based cannabis company focused on the extraction and processing market. So it's looking towards Cannabis 2.0, if you will, October 2019, when legalization comes into effect across Canada with respect to edibles, beverages, higher concentrations of concentrates and vapes, really looking to go after that market. And so we've gathered a core competency of both strategic partners and staff, brought them on board with respect to our team, and that's really what our core competency focus on the consumer packaged goods, but infused with cannabis. And we're going to target that, play on the Quebec aspect, of course, and being from Montreal or from Quebec, Quebec favors domestic production, and it's no different, I would imagine, with the SQDC.
Sure.
And looking to build that model, start in Quebec, and really be a good Canadian company as well, and branch out from there.
Okay, so you're formulating consumer packaged goods for the retail market.
Yes, sir.
Are you growing your own cannabis?
I think in this day and age, especially now, you have to. So we do have some cultivation sites. We actually just got our industrial outdoor hemp license for some farmland in St. Louis, which is the St. Lawrence Lower Valley.
Yep.
And that's 57 hectares of farmland where we'll be able to grow industrial hemp, extract the CBD oil, refine it further, and then infuse it into a number of different products, whether it be creams, edibles such as gummies or soft gel capsules, beverages as well. CBD and beverages actually, more play in the wellness market, and I think that CBD will probably be much higher in demand, as you can already see from the United States and worldwide, than THC as it stands today. THC certainly will come along, but CBD, everybody's grandmother knows about CBD today.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the extraction portion of the CBDs. Do you have extraction infrastructure and expertise as well?
So we definitely have the expertise. The infrastructure we're building out currently. We're actually doing a capital raise right now towards that end. We anticipate our facilities will be complete by the end of this calendar year, and licensed shortly thereafter. On the extraction side, I think that we're not, without giving away too much, I think one of the distinguishing factors for us, in particular when it comes to the vape pen and concentrates market, is that we're focusing more on the butane extraction, so hydrocarbon, if you will. A lot of the Canadian producers and extractors, the small pool that exists today, are focused on the CO2 side, and that's more of a medical approach. But what happens is with CO2, they often end up cutting using cutting agents, if you will, for the vape oil and the concentrates. And that's to bring the viscosity down to an acceptable level to be used in vape pens. The beautiful part about butane is that you have a higher concentration of naturally sourced terpenes, usually in the realm of 10, 12, sometimes 15%. And what that affords you is it brings down the viscosity of the vape pen, but has a more complex, fuller taste profile. So if you look at the United States again, in terms of the analytics and statistics, majority of the vape pens and concentrates are butane derived in terms of the extraction process. That's something that my group has experience doing, and as of November, I believe Health Canada allowed that to be part of the regime for the licensing in terms of what types of methodologies you can use. So we're going to definitely benefit from that, focus on that, put our expertise to work. And the beautiful part is that terpenes add a natural taste profile, if you will. Lemon, lime, some cases field berries, versus you're very limited with respect to Health Canada regulations where you can't add flavor, you can't add caffeine to certain products. So that's a benefit of having a process that naturally ups the percentage of terpenes in your final product.
Right. So is it your expectation that on or about October 27th, you'll be able to have your beverages on shelves in Quebec?
We're working towards that. It might be a little tight. I have some kind of plan B scenarios, if you will, to help get us out there, and that's potentially working with some other wonderful up-and-coming Quebec companies that are slightly ahead of us in the licensing process, but don't necessarily have the expertise to get to the bottom, to the finish line, versus we have a lot of the expertise and are maybe a month or two behind October. So potentially by December we could have some products on shelves. In particular, I think the one that I brought today, which is a terpene-infused beverage that doesn't have any active cannabinoids but will in the future. That particular product is an interesting play because it doesn't have any active cannabinoids. It can be not only in SQDC in Quebec or OCS approved stores in Ontario, but it could be in your Longo's or Shoppers Drug Mart or 7-Eleven right now.
Right.
It's a 0 calorie, 0 sugar, carbonated water that just plays on the cannabis space. I don't want to say novelty because it's not that. It's certainly better. But what we did is we kind of refined the flavors to take out the sharp notes of that skunky goodness. So it has that undertone and a bit of that taste, but it's just fantastic. And then we mix it in with some of the naturally derived terpenes to mimic some of the genetic strains of cannabis flavors.
Okay, so these products are not infused with any cannabinoids per se.
No, we eventually probably will go after the CBD side more than THC. I think if you look at, again, the US as a barometer, the beverage market is actually stagnant in terms of growth. And that's because people don't necessarily want to drink THC. The bioavailability of having that drink in your mouth before it goes down to your liver and converts to Delta 11 THC, it's not long, so you don't get necessarily a good conversion for THC for that psychoactive reaction if you're looking for that. But on the CBD side, it's a little bit more different. So, you're going after a different market segment. It's more the wellness side. So we eventually probably put CBD in these products, but right now, terpenes, you can't really market it so much. There are some health benefits. They're naturally available, and you could find them in oranges, you could find them in mangoes and so forth. So what we've done is we infuse that, but with an overall cannabis play, if you will, to this particular set of beverages. So if you look here, we have this middle beverage here. I don't know if everyone could see. This is what we call Original One or OG number 1. And I'll give you a little smell and you'll know right away what I'm talking about.
Sure.
Oh yeah. And you get a bit of that skunky goodness.
Oh yeah, it smells like I'd want to spread that on a paper and throw some tobacco in there and fire it up.
Yeah, you're not the only one to say that. So this is really if you will, this is the undertone for all our other beverages. We have a total of 3 other flavors. I only brought the 2 kind of the ones that really people go crazy for. And this is Kushberry Basil here.
Okay.
So it's a mix of field berries and strawberries, if I'm not mistaken. No, this is strawberry guava here. So this is field berries, and it's mixed in. This is the undertone for all the flavors. So if you give this one a smell, it's a much more fragrant, fruity flavor by comparison.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and we'll get you a little taste test later on. But this kind of stuff, let me tell you, mix this one in a mojito, and you're having a good time.
Yeah, well, I did taste a couple of them, and I think that the flavor is certainly pleasant, and I could certainly imagine putting some vodka on that, on some ice on a hot summer day with some mint, and away you go.
This is the thing, is that when you're looking at the cannabis space, we strongly believe in the Pareto principle. So you got 20% making 80% of the purchases, and those are the hardcore cannabis users. So how do you bring new people to market? And this is one way that, first of all, is not limited in terms of a distribution network, but also is an easy transition for people to get used to that skunky goodness, if you will, without going through the psychoactive reaction and whatnot. So it's a way to dip your toe in the cannabis market. And from a beverage side, we've just got really good reactions. We're working with, again, local Quebec producers to co-pack. It's our formulations. We've got some preliminary orders out of California. We're going to work with some sales brokers to try and get it in the cannabis-related stores, because it is a tie into the cannabis market, but again, no active cannabinoids at this time.
Right.
Yeah.
So when the cannabinoids are legal in Canada, will you still have these products that don't have any psychoactive effect?
Well, I'm going to say absolutely, and I won't put you on the spot, but these are pretty good. You've tried a couple of beverages, so they're pretty good. I think as a standalone, they work very well. If you look at La Croix in terms of the water market, I think it's upwards of $800 million in sales last year or the year before. So the beverage market, in particular the carbonated water market, is very interesting. This goes one step further because there's a cannabis play to it. So over and above all the other wide range of products for which we have experience in doing, this particular product will be the one that will run in parallel to the cannabis-infused version. But at the same time, be able to create brand awareness for our company, for Bouquet, which is the brand of the carbonated water, and I think it'll do very well.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, well that's great. Do you think that there's any future in the production of cannabinoids as ingredients from biosynthetic sources above, in preference to plant-generated sources?
You know what, it's very interesting. I'd have to say, in our experience with the groups that we've talked to, they're a little bit of a ways off, in particular on a commercial scale. We're very interested in that. There's some specific cannabinoids that we're looking at that actually help stabilize your blood sugar level and also suppress your diet. And so, you could see the marketing aspects for those particular products, in particular in a beverage. But the problem is they're very hard and in very limited quantities in the current genetic strains that are out there today. So we were looking into the synthetic way of creating these cannabinoids and reproducing them on a more grand scale. But the problem is, from our experience in talking to some of these companies, is that they're not quite there yet. They're probably a couple of years off. And then again, on a commercial scale, how viable will they be? They have to do a lot of tests in terms of the cannabinoids will have the same effect and interaction with the body based on a synthetic level. And from the research that we've done, there's been some adverse effects, if you will, in some cases. Not across the board. I'd say there's some companies that are doing it well, but to scale up has been the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Scott, that's a great introduction. We'll leave it there for now and come back to you soon. I assume this is going to be a public company at some point?
Absolutely. We're looking probably in the next 9 months or so to go public. We want to create a liquidity opportunity for our investors who believe in us from day one. My chairman, Renaud Adams, who's still very involved in the company as a principal shareholder, strongly believes, as do I, in creating value for shareholders.
Great.
So it's really about heading towards that opportunity. And I think that if you look in 9 months' time, facilities completely built out, licensed, potentially generating revenue with a presence not only in Canada, but hopefully in the United States as well. That's a great story to bring to market.
You bet. All right, Scott, that's a great story as it is already. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Make sure you never miss a show by subscribing to our YouTube channel and clicking on the little notifications bell. If you're interested in getting monthly actionable investment ideas in the cannabis space to your inbox, subscribe to the newsletter at MidasLetter.com. So, there you have it. Another beverage company, Edward. Going to be making some cannabis beverage. Which we're going to be getting high. We're going to be doing hits of DMT, chocolate mushrooms, following it up with a downer down a glass of 10 milligrams THC with 5 milligrams of CBD and put you in the
DEF.
To see you later.
ABC.
To see you.
Another beverage company.
EDT. EMT.
EM.
E.
So what are you thinking here? I mean, look at.
I say we should cut the show early and let's go have a drink. What do you think? The audience doesn't care.
Well. What do you?
Just kidding. Nobody's paying attention to us. FSD Pharma had quite the announcement today. Did you catch that?
No.
It was basically so we don't have financials this week, this month, this year.
Why not?
Because they didn't file their financials. The old auditor quit and the new auditor is saying, what the fuck is going on with this company? No, I don't know. There's some new auditors, and the official line from the company is that, as new auditors, they need some time to figure out what the hell's going on.
Time to get sort of acquainted.
Yeah.
To get comfortable.
Yeah.
I see.
Yes. They need to dive into the the voluminous transactions that have occurred and make sure that everything is on the up and up. Because you know what happens if it's not on the up and up? It's on the down low, yo.
we get the Governor General after you. Well, that's not
Governor General?
No, the
Governor?
Attorney General.
Hello, Governor.
Governor.
That's all right. The Attorney General here is apparently on the take. Apparently, a company that is governed by the rule of law now is called a democracy.
These people.
And if it doesn't actually observe the rule of law, it's still called a democracy. That's the way it works now, Edward. Didn't you know that?
Smashing.
Cup of tea, eh? What? Red rose? Pity? We were talking about the various ways. So I was in the bar at the Mount Stephan Hotel in downtown Montreal.
Yes.
On Wednesday night, and the person I was with whipped out a vape, and it, it was. He said, "You want some?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So I do a big bang on this vape. I'm like, I said, "Jesus!" When I finally stopped coughing, that tastes quite concentrated. I said, "What is that, my good man?" He said, "Oh, that's Shatter, 82% THC."
Shatter.
And let's just say that the rest of the evening was a blur.
Right.
A blur, and my stomach muscles were so sore the next day from laughing.
Really?
Oh, fuck.
I didn't think you had stomach muscles.
Ed, I'll push you down right now in front of everybody.
Yeah.
What do you mean you didn't think I had stomach muscles? Are you kidding? You haven't seen my one pack?
When you say stomach muscle, are you talking about abs?
Yeah,
one
abs.
pack. Yeah, one pack.
One pack.
No, it's one sack.
One sack. Oh, now if you didn't have muscles, it would be one sack.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you had...
No, I can say that to you because you're obviously in good shape.
Well, relatively speaking.
As opposed to a person that's shaped good.
A good shape.
Shaped good.
Mr. Good Shape. Shapely.
Shapely.
Shapely. Shape up or ship out.
Is that
my
the
father
past
used
tense
to
of
say.
ship?
Nope,
Shape?
that's shiply. Oh, ship.
Can you ship my pants?
Oh, I have to take it to the scatological low
No,
of the
ship.
day.
I said ship my pants.
Ship my
I'm
pants.
sending to you. I want to send them across the ocean.
gotta-
Can you ship them?
I think you should enunciate your consonants a little bit more clearly, Edward.
You heard what you wanted to hear.
Ship the bed. Eat, ship, and die.
Ship the pooch. Pooch
Ship.
the shit.
Eat shits and leaves. Shoots and leaves. Have you ever seen that book, Eat, Shoots, and Leaves, all about where to put the comma, when to put a comma, when to not to put a comma, where you put the comma in the sentence of multiple commas?
Oh, that's, okay, I get it.
Eats, shoots, and leaves. Meaning,
Eats.
indicating that, depending on where you put the comma in can change the entire meaning of a sentence.
Eats, shoots, and leaves.
That's if you walk in, shoot the guy, and walk out.
Right.
But if you eats, shoots, and leaves with no comma, then you eat grasses and branches and leaves. And you don't go anywhere. And you stay put in the tree.
Eats, shits.
Eats ships?
No, shit. Wait, what is it? Fuck. Jesus.
I don't know. We better go to another interview. Tilt Holdings CEO Alexander Coleman is here to defend one of the bigger goodwill write-downs we've seen this year.
Tilt Holdings Inc. is a business-to-business cannabis company focused on the research, development, manufacture, distribution, and sale of products and services. The company maintains two primary divisions: technology for software and services, and infrastructure for cannabis products and devices. Revenue is generated from cannabis cultivation, the sale of flower, concentrates, oils, consumables, and topicals, vaporizer and inhalation devices, delivery and inventory management services, and licensed software. The company has operations in 40 U.S. states and Canada and Europe, and more than 1,000 dispensaries across the U.S., Canada, Puerto Rico, and Jamaica. Tilt Holdings Inc. trades on the CSE under the ticker symbol TILT.
I'm joined now by Alex Coleman, CEO of Tilt Holdings, trading on the CSE under the symbol TILT. Alex, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Alex, you've just recently put out your consolidated financial statements, and I want to start with a quick conversation about your goodwill write-down, just because that was a remarkable occurrence. What is the explanation behind that?
Yeah, it's essentially a result of two conflicting accounting policies. On one hand, they attributed value to each asset that we put together at the time of our IPO on December 6th, where you had four companies getting together simultaneously. And the attributed value took their balance sheets and attributed goodwill based on their percentage ownership. A few weeks later at year end, based on IFRS accounting standards, specifically IAS 36, you have to actually discount back cash flows for each asset to then determine the value. Well, our company, as you know, is primarily an ecosystem company. We're a partner company. We think about market reach and market share. And so in those asset pools, we have things like modulated grow facilities or business-to-business consumer distribution businesses. We have over 1,000 customers in retail alone and 500 OEs. And so the cash flows, if you do it by simple math, never represents the correct intrinsic value of each asset that we've put together here. And that's the conflict. And so you basically had, in a very short period of time, a write-up based on an IPO price and a write-down based on discounted cash flows, which really don't take into consideration the value of the enterprise.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it really doesn't impact the enterprise value in any way, shape, or form.
It does not impact. There's no correlation between the write-down or the adjustment to goodwill and the enterprise value in the public markets. You could also argue, and the silver lining in this is that our earnings will be substantially higher going forward because we won't be amortizing that goodwill, and it's already taken off in one go.
Okay. One of our Twitter followers who goes by the handle The Curious Investor wanted me to ask you about Standard Farms and their production extraction plans. He says he hasn't heard much about them and feels that they're keys to the business because of their higher margins.
I don't know how to answer that. I think it's easier to answer it in the addressing what our strategy is, which is on a state-by-state basis. In order to provide the cannabis products, the devices, the software and services, that predetermines that we need assets in every state that we can then cultivate, process, package the actual cannabis products. Standard Farms from Pennsylvania and a processing license in Ohio is just part of that puzzle of putting together all the assets across all 33 states so that we can provide our customers with the products. There's nothing unique or specific about Standard Farms. It was a world-class operation when we bought it. We're currently expanding production capacity today. And like everything, we expect to match supply with the demand in the market as that unfolds. So I don't know how to answer the question specifically, other than if you look at the other states where we're doing the same thing, we always try and identify a very good foundation from which we can build.
Okay, sure. So great. You're obviously amping up the revenue. Adjusted EBITDA is improving. Where is the best source of your quality revenue at this point?
So in the front end, it's definitely devices, software, and services. Just because we've established ourselves in mostly medical markets. And as we've talked about before, demand is a little bit more restricted in medical markets than it is recreational. Our forecast expects that certainly at some point in the near future, measured in quarters, that cannabis revenue will be at least as big as devices. And it's interesting because we have about a 30% gross margin on our devices, and we have about an 85 to 90% gross margin on cannabis products. So you'll only see an uplift in our performance going forward. Furthermore, we really don't run a lot of retail, but primarily because our customers are retailers, and so you'll see a lot of that profit drop to the bottom line.
Okay. And then, so on the state-by-state basis, do you have any states that you're liking better than others at this point?
Every state that converts to recreational, you expect to be the best state in the near future. So a state like Massachusetts converting to recreational, Michigan converting to recreational, those are the ones that are going to lead our revenue and profit. Following that will be the others like Ohio and Pennsylvania, et cetera, where massive population bases, but the programs aren't as developed yet.
Right. The issue of federal deprohibition in the United States, is anybody making that an election issue for the upcoming federal election at this point? And do you think that's really going to be a deciding factor among voters?
The deciding factor among voters, it's a very interesting election cycle given the economy and the usual outcome of the incumbent getting reelected. It's anybody's best guess what our current president does. He plays a little bit of three-dimensional chess. I know that we're on his desk. We're with a lot of senators and a lot of congressmen. And everyone's approaching it from a different angle. The real complexity here is what does federal legalization mean? If you look at the market data coming out of each state, you can easily project 1 million jobs and $15 billion a year in annual state tax revenue if the whole market were recreational across the country. Now, that also presupposes that we restrict it to intrastate commerce. And the reason is there's still a very robust black market, and I personally don't think that you can see those numbers if you open it up to federal legality, and then you have a place like California, which is a great state to operate in, but as everybody knows, they produce 13.5 million pounds, and they only sell 3 million pounds in state. And that's what worries me the most, is that if federal legalization doesn't take into account that existing market, which really hasn't been addressed yet.
Right. So on that note, 13 million pounds produced and only 3 million pounds sold. That seems to be emerging as a default characteristic of states that legalize recreational cannabis, but then fail to really enforce the compliance of statewide legislation on the part of market participants. And it seems like there's really not much in the way of political willpower to shut down these illegal dispensaries and grow ops. Is that something that you think represents a threat to the legitimate industry in its entirety?
Well, I think in the dry flower product, absolutely. I mean, if you look at Canada, and the reason, some are attributing it to supply chain problems. The other thing is the black market has a published price that's 58% less than the legal market. I don't know how you do that, and that country has let. I mean, just as an example to your question, that country left an entire 12-month period during which legal participants can only compete with the black market on dry flower. Really what happens, though, is the consumer gravitates towards, and our companies do best, is create value-added products, vape pens, edibles, tinctures, a full range of value-added SKUs. And that's really what differentiates us from the black market. I think the more time that goes on, the dry flower market becomes much less relevant, and the legal market, by simply delivering better product to the consumer, ends up prevailing. But look, it's an issue. I mean, Gavin Newsom obviously is asking the federal government for help. They didn't really look at it as a problem until they realized how much revenue they were missing and how prolific the black market is, and now they're paying attention. And it'll be an interesting case study to see what happens next.
Sure. So, I guess from the state's perspective, state governments, that one of their primary motivators in legalizing cannabis is this concept of increased taxation from, consumers of cannabis. Do you think that's going to cause more states to accelerate towards legalization, or do you think the states that have dragged their feet so far, some of them are just more conservative in nature, some of them are more religious in nature, do you think those states are forever going to be anti-cannabis, or do you think that the momentum is going to sweep them up as well at some point?
I think it'll sweep them up as well. I mean, you should have a market that evolves very similar to alcohol, where you could have a blue state, in this case, let's call it a green state, with restrictive laws. Other states are going to be more liberal. It's a natural outcome of allowing each state to define their own laws, which is what we are advocating for. You'll still have FDA oversight and all the other agencies, but I think each state should be able to decide. But really, the punchline is there's no question we're seeing an acceleration of every state focusing on recreational once they get a medical market approved, because that's the biggest challenge, right? Once you get through that hurdle and you create the acceptability among your voting constituents, and you then look at the missed jobs and the missed tax revenue by not making it recreational, it is an eventuality.
You bet. All right, Alex. Well, that's a great update. I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining me today, and we'll come back to you soon.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me again.
You bet. Bye for now. If you like the show, you'll love our website. Visit us at www.midasletter.com for interviews with key CEOs, cannabis news, and to subscribe to our newsletter.
Okay. Tell me what country you want to live in.
What country would you like to live in if you could live anywhere? Time's up. Anyways,
I'd like to live somewhere warm and somewhere that has a better favorable, a little bit of a better tax regime.
Tax regime, like no taxes.
So I don't mind paying
Tax-free.
something,
Tax what? Panama.
Oh, Panama. Okay.
Yeah, Panama's got a good tax regime.
Okay, I'm in.
Yeah. WikiLeaks should be in Panama. Pretty soon everybody will be in Panama.
Yeah, everybody. They're going to change the name of the world to Panama.
Actually, instead of the United States, it'll be Panama.
Yeah. Panamera.
Guantanamera.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Guantanamera. Yeah. Anyways, Dan Bilzerian, we had him last week. And we also talked to the president of his company. So you notice that I didn't ask Dan too much about his company because Dan's running it from on high, so to speak. And the guy who's really running the show, his name is Jim McCormick, and here's the interview we did with him.
My name is Jim McCormick. I'm the president of Ignite International.
Sure. Jim, when did Ignite start in the cannabis business?
Well, Ignite is the creation of Dan Bilzerian. He's the founder of the company, and it actually appeared in his radar screen around 2016, middle of 2016, when Dan saw the emerging cannabis space and realized that there was no leading brand. Dan had the Ignite brand kind of sitting idle, and then in 2016 he saw the opportunity to use that brand in the cannabis space. So the company was essentially born then. But its product launch took place in October of 2018, so a relatively newcomer to the consumer products world.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and what does Ignite actually do in the cannabis world?
Well, you know, it's funny. Even though the company Ignite started as a cannabis idea of Dan's, we've seen in even the short time that I've been there that the brand is much more than that. So we don't actually consider ourselves a cannabis company. We consider ourselves a product, consumer products company. Cannabis is one arm of that, and THC products, but also CBD, which now in the U.S. is completely legal and abroad as well, and a $22 billion segment this year. So we see CBD as one of the key components. We also have a vaping line, which also comprises of not just interchangeable THC and CBD pods, but also the ability to sell nicotine in a vaping form. So we're much broader than a cannabis company, and we see the Ignite brand being able to be spread across multiple product lines.
Sure. Is Ignite a cultivator of cannabis?
No, our model is actually an asset-light model. So whereas the typical MSO in the States or Canada has everything from the grow to the dispensary, I can't grow anything. So you don't want me growing anything as a company or personally. So we really focus on building our brand and about meeting the consumer. That's all we focus on. So the model is a little bit different. But we think in the long run, the value add will be around building that brand. So that's where we want to spend 100% of our focus. So in that model, we have to find great partners to produce our products, and that's one of the challenges that we have, whether it be on a state-by-state basis for cannabis or nationwide in Canada, or as we explore the UK, finding partners there. And we see more and more opportunities to partner with white label producers that's all they do. They don't build brands, but they produce great products. And so it's a really good fit, and we find those partners, and that's how we go to market.
Right. Okay, so your revenue comes from retail sale of your Ignite brands in dispensaries throughout United States at this point?
Yeah, again, dispensaries is the THC model, so we receive revenue from there, but also online sales for CBD products and nicotine products. But also, as we move out, we're closing a deal for nationwide distribution. So we'll be in convenience, we'll be in smoke shops, brick and mortar. So consumers can go to a local shop and get Ignite products. And then that's under the CBD umbrella. And then as we build out the Ignite brand, we continue to roll out state by state with our cannabis line and other product lines as they come to market.
Sure. So what are your top selling products right now in California?
Right, we see vape is really one of, in all forms, whether it be CBD or in the THC product line. Vape is the fastest moving, it's the fastest growing segment within the THC space. And as we see, vaping and CBD usage evolving, it's very early days. We see vaping as a very big component of that. We, of course, sell traditional flower products in THC and drops in terms of CBD. We have launched a toothpick line of all things, which is interesting.
Somewhat famously, I would say. At this
well,
point.
yeah, I mean, it was my first product launch as president, so that one kind of came. But it just shows the flexibility of CBD, and consumers are really resonating with the health benefits, and so you'll see a lot more product offerings we intend to roll out over the coming months under the Ignite brand.
Okay, so the thing that first drew my attention to the Ignite brand was these building-sized billboards, and especially since coming from Canada where we're not allowed to advertise at all. Is the ability to advertise key to success for a brand like Ignite?
Well, look, I think for any brand, you have a number of things that make it successful. First and foremost, you have to have it available to consumers and have distribution. But as you're building awareness of a brand, there's a couple of ways to do it. So obviously, having a building-size billboard of Ignite brings immediate awareness to people driving by. The thing that attracted me to Ignite and what makes us unique is Dan's social media following. So even in places where we aren't present, so I have a home in Texas, I'll have my Ignite gear on and I'll be walking around and shopping or something, and people will come up to me and they say, "That's Dan Bilzerian's brand. How do I get one of those hoodies?" Things like that. So, we have this massive awareness of Ignite thanks to Dan's presence. But at the end of the day, you can't rely on just one aspect. So you have to have a through-the-line campaign, whether it's billboards, and point of sale is very important. Consumers make decisions right at the point of sale. I think our packaging is as good as anybody's out there. I think our logo is one of the best logos I've ever seen. So it immediately draws attention at the point of sale. But what is important to understand is that it's a consumer product. It's no different than ketchup, than laundry detergent. You have to make it, you have to get it like the consumer wants it, and you have to get it where they can buy it at the end of the day. So, for us, we have this beautiful brand, we have great partners, and now it's just about execution. And that's what we focus on, and we don't have to worry about growing and running dispensaries and things like that. So, that's what we spend all our time doing.
Sure. Okay. In the state of California at this point, there's some figures say there's up to 8 out of 10 dispensaries and grow ops are actually operating on an unregistered, illegitimate, illegal basis.
Right.
Does that threaten the integrity of the industry and the future of it in its entirety?
Well, there's a lot to this. Okay, so California is by far the biggest market within the U.S. It has a long developed illicit market, black market, whatever you want to call it. And so with the legalization's in early innings, so it's only been not even 2 years yet, and what you see is that there's a price differential. You have a 30% excise, but what consumers like is the fact that products are tested, products are reliable. You're not buying on a street corner from somebody that's a little bit dodgy maybe. So it's a long run game. You have dispensaries that aren't licensed, and the state is getting much more aggressive in closing those down. But sometimes these people just move. So the economics have to work themselves through, and this isn't going to change overnight. The market is way too developed, and there's still that price differential, but I believe over time, and with sensible regulation and sensible excise policies, we'll see the market more and more legitimatized over time.
Sure. Okay, from an investment perspective then, how soon till the company is profitable? How much money do you need to raise to get there?
Well, look, we have a lot of opportunities globally. This is a global play. And time is our best friend and worst enemy at the same time. So we have to grab these opportunities while we can. So we're looking to raise up to 100 million Canadian, which we believe will take us well into this year with our plans of rolling out in the US, Canada, and the UK, also looking at other markets in South America as well as Central Asia. So that's vital to have the fuel. And what does that money get used for? Well, it's not to buy a fleet of Teslas, I can tell you that. It's used for working capital, it's used to close joint ventures where there's capital injections needed, and really to execute our game plan. Profitability, obviously early stage company. We expect to have relatively high gross margins, and so we would look to be cash flow positive, certainly in 2020. Can't say exactly when because that's dependent on the market rollouts, but we run the company very lean and mean, and this asset light model should give us a path to profitability much quicker than some more traditional vertically integrated operations.
Perfect. All right, Jim, that's great. Great introduction. We're going to follow the company. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you very much for the time.
Enjoying the show, everybody? Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram. I wonder if people like Dan's brand. I mean, he's so out there in front of it.
Wonder who.
I wonder who wrote the book of love. Oh, tell me,
teacher.
baby.
It's tell me, teacher, isn't it?
I don't know.
Or preacher.
Preacher?
Or no, you tell the preacher.
Preacher, tell me, man?
Tell me now. Okay.
Tell me, preacher, man.
Let's say something profound.
Okay, something really smart.
Smart.
It's all bullshit.
It's all bullshit. Biggest bullshit.
Tell me your favorite new marijuana company. Brand new.
Brand new? I don't know. I really don't know.
You don't know?
No.
You don't know. You haven't seen any that you like?
Well, I like beer. I like this beer thing. I like
the beer.
Low market cap.
Yeah.
I really like the low market cap.
Do you think that's going to keep going next week?
I think well, I definitely know that
you know. Not you think, you know.
I know that something's changed.
Really?
Yeah.
Look at Wayland Group. Closed down 10 cents to 70 cents.
Nice one.
Yeah. WeMD released financials up 3 cents,
wow.
$1.79.
Flying.
Yeah, flying. Flying. Let's see. Dianamed. It seems to be struggling down there in the $2 to $3 range. But yeah, the market's kind of like
well, you know what?
Soft.
How about sell in May and go away?
It is May. Should we
go away
and could live to trade another day? How much do you trade, Ed?
I trade a lot.
Billions? Trillions.
I trade billions of millions of cents.
What are you doing this weekend?
Going up north.
Really?
North.
North. Going up north. The north.
I'm going up to check out some of the floodwaters.
Yeah.
Might go do a little swimming.
This is our show for the week. This is what we have. This is all we're going to give you. It's time for the weekend to start. We say goodbye.